Some of the biggest lies ever told are when someone tells you that they're fine, that college isn't a scam, that Medea movies are bad, and that Jaren Duran isn't an all-star. The All-Star Game and overall All-Star festivities are right around the corner, this year happening in Arlington, Texas. It's an exciting time for sure, where you'll mostly see smiles and good times, but also where you might see some of the most arguments this year among Americans other than the election in November. If and when World War III begins, I'm convinced fans clashing over who should or shouldn't be an All-Star will be a part of that origin. And as a very anti-war person myself, I'm going to be a hypocrite today and only add fuel to that fire because I feel so strongly about this. So if you're not subscribed to the channel yet, come aboard and join the wonderful people who are subscribed, as Jaren Duran is having such a quietly good season. And before you get to it, yes, there will be a lot of glazing in this video, as a lot of people like to put it. Full on my knees, ready for it all. What are you going to do about it? Sue me. Duran's having a mostly unfairly but quietly good season in 2024, and I do understand why that is the case, why it's been quiet, not for Boston but for the rest of the country. And to fully understand why, let's take a look at the 5 players who made it to the next round of All-Star voting over Duran. Aaron Judge is automatically in now that he led everyone in votes in the first round of voting, and to say Aaron Judge isn't an All-Star is to say Anakin blew up the Death Star. Nobody would say that. It's obviously not reality. Oh, wait.
If you can't look and see that Anakin blowing up the Death Star possibly killed millions and millions of people, I'm going to get in trouble for saying this now, right?
Juan Soto is a finalist, and he should be in because, obviously. And for the final 3, we have Steven Kwan, Anthony Santander, and Kyle Tucker. Now, the man who deserves it most sheerly off the numbers would be Kyle Tucker, but I'm also going to knock him off as someone who doesn't deserve it over Duran first, because as good as he's been, he's also fouled a ball off his shin and has missed like 20 games as a result. It sucks, and the Astros are better with him out there, obviously, but the games being missed in this case should matter for who gets to be an All-Star, which I'll get more into soon. Steven Kwan is basically in the same boat as Kyle Tucker. He has awesome stats, actually currently having the best batting average in all of baseball, with everything else up too. He's genuinely been one of the best hitters this year, but like Tucker, he's missed a good chunk of games, more than 20, and as for Anthony Santander, he's played almost every game, but has objectively not had as good or valuable of a year as Duran. What makes Santander so valuable is his power, which is great. He's a very good bat for Baltimore, but again, that's his one thing. It's a big thing, but that's it. With Duran, everything is good, and he provides so much value in so many different ways. To start, the simple stuff, he's had a really good offensive year, just on the surface. Good batting average, good OPS. But then comes the stuff that the other guys don't have. For one, the speed. Jaren Duran might be the fastest guy in baseball. His sprint speed is basically as good as it gets compared to everyone else. He has great range in the outfield because of it. He steals bases because of it, and he also legs out so many doubles and triples because of it. In fact, not only has his speed led him to the most doubles in the American League with 23, but Duran has the most triples in all of baseball with 10. And I honestly feel this speed is one of the more underrated things just in general. In the long run, it's easy to not think too much of it, I guess, but having top tier elite speed like that really does go a long way for a team as far as the offense, and getting yourself in a scoring position, and defense, having elite range that helps you make catches like these. Duran's not going to slug you out of the park, but that's okay. He does have some pop, but his overall game of making contact, turning singles into doubles and doubles into triples because of his legs is beyond valuable. And his wins above replacement is 4.3, higher than the other finalists in the voting beside Juan Soto, whose is 4.4. Now, how much do you want to factor in that stat? That's up to you, but I'll also bring up what I feel may be the most underrated stat in all of baseball: reliability. But iTALK, that's not a stat, you idiot. Well, it is now. Jaren Duran has played in every single game this season so far for the Red Sox, and recently when his manager Alex Cora told him he was going to have a day off in their next game, here's how that went.
Fuck you, and I'll see you tomorrow.
This guy wants to be out there every single day, and he has. Like, there was this stat last year that Marcus Semien was involved in literally every single pitch of the entire Rangers season, including the playoffs. He didn't miss one moment. I find stuff like that so valuable, and something that's as rare as ever today. So when players do it, it's really cool. And Duran, so far, has been doing it, showing up every day and then, of course, doing the things he's been doing. He's come a long way since not knowing what a baseball looked like.
It was at this moment that he knew. He fucked up.
to making plays like this. And I think the most important thing with Durant is just him being able to simply play every day. This is his first season where he's been a true everyday guy for the Red Sox rather than just kind of there, but also taking constant trips back to AAA. This year, he's getting a full crack at being a full-time everyday guy, and it's paying off. I do understand the All-Star game is a popularity contest at the end of the day, at least to an extent. I mean, most players who become All-Stars do deserve it with the stats they put up, and they become All-Stars not just because a lot of fans wanted them in, but they actually did deserve it. But then you get instances like this where it's pretty obvious when you look at it what the case should be. The Red Sox, especially in recent years, have not necessarily been as exciting, at least to an outside audience. I mean, even their own fan base has been angry and bored with this team being so mediocre over the last 3 years as a whole. But any success from a player that comes from Boston, naturally because of all this mediocrity with the entire team and negative connotation with the ownership, will result in these players not getting the recognition that they necessarily deserve. And Durant is a perfect example of that. I mean, Kyle Tucker is a guy who's been one of the better hitters in baseball for years now, on the most consistently winning team for years. Steven Kwan has an abnormally high batting average, which is always cool to see. I don't care that people don't value that as much now. It's still very cool and will get attention either way. And Cleveland is also one of the best teams this year. And Anthony Santander is on one of the most exciting teams in all of baseball right now. Maybe the most exciting, depending on who you ask. So in terms of popularity and what fans, or at least the general fan, is going to know, it makes sense to have Jarren Duran not be at the top of conversations when outfielders who should be all-stars comes up. The Red Sox just aren't as exciting as they used to be. They're kind of in a weird spot right now where they're kind of good, but at the same time very mediocre, and it's been this way for 3 years. But when you're really looking at true value and who means the most to their team, when you include every single possible way of helping your team, Jarren Duran is ahead of these other guys, other than Aaron Judge and Juan Soto. This wouldn't be an argument if Tucker and Kwan hadn't missed so many games so far, but they have, and as a result, I think the man who's played every single game should be rewarded for not just playing in every single game, but being one of the most valuable players in all of baseball in so many different ways. And Anthony Santander, who's played almost every game, should also not be ahead of Duran. He has more power than him. That's it. Duran has better speed, better defense, better hitting stats other than the power. I'm not the biggest fan of looking at the wins above replacement, aka WAR stat, and having that be the end-all be-all when comparing players. But when Duran is almost 3 full points higher than Santander's, that means something. There's a reason why it's so drastically better despite the two players having similar OPSs. And that's because of what I just went over. All the things Duran does better to add value other than hitting home runs. It's disappointing that he's going to end up being an all-star snub, and I'm sure he feels the same way. I guess this shirt he wore will also be his thoughts on missing the all-star game, and this doesn't take away how impactful he's been as a player this year, but it also doesn't take away how much of a travesty this really is. Regardless if you love the Red Sox or absolutely despise the Red Sox with all your being, Jarren Duran deserves to be an all-star, and that's just a fact. It's a shame he's not going to be this year, because there's really not much more he could have done to put himself in a position to be named an all-star for the first time in his career. I guess the Red Sox being a little more sexy of a team would have helped, but it is what it is. Jarren Duran deserves to be an all-star. Let me know your thoughts. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you soon.